Let's talk a little bit about heritage. Now, there's a whole panel coming up later on about heritage. So I'm wondering about companies that have a heritage around design. So you think about a company like Porsche, you think about a company like Harley, very iconic designs. And then you take an element like EV, which has very different design elements and very different mechanics that really inform the design. I'm wondering how a brand weighs those different options. You know, do you have a responsibility to consumers that are looking for a vehicle that looks in a certain way?
Yeah, Harley-Davidson, we have we have a few mantras that we use in the design department. One is that the powertrain is the crown jewel. We don't like to do anything fake. We don't like to put things behind black plastic facades. So, and when you're doing an internal combustion powertrain, it's very easy. We've gotten very good at, creating jewelry out of these parts. The rest of the motorcycle frames.
That's a great way to look at it. That's beautiful.
We say that the motor is basically the diamond and the rest of the motorcycle is the setting. And so the first thing you see when you look at a Harley-Davidson motorcycle, of course, is the powertrain, the V-twin. It's very iconic. We look at what's out there. We look at the competitive set was basically they were covering everything up, right? So you take a big ugly battery and you style a beautiful body around it, and you kind of design your way out of the problem. We didn't have the luxury of pulling that lever at Harley-Davidson because it completely goes against our ethos. So we started to take the pieces apart and we disassembled the battery. We found that the battery itself we could make it sit in a beautiful aluminum casing. We could eliminate some fans that you have to have on the battery to keep the battery cool by having heat sinks and fins. And these very much felt like the same textures and the same finishes and design ethos of our cylinders on our V-twin engine.
Brad, I think you guys nailed it on the design of the motorcycle, because I'm all for it for heritage, but I'm not really, I don't want to get caught up on tradition, right? So you guys bring in what you want to feel, or what is the emotional connection to what you know as a Harley-Davidson, not how you're getting that, right? I guess you design it differently, so you trigger that emotion a little differently, but at the end of the day, it's going to be the same result. A friend once said, what tradition means, it's a peer pressure from dead people. And it was not automotive related, but I think it applies. Like, I think we shouldn't get caught up with tradition, but the heritage part, and I think if we think about, I like to think that the most important factor of connectivity or emotional connection between the vehicle or the product to the driver is, what are you feeling?
I'd add to that one thing they said that's really clear is that you were driven by the singular ethos that you have to celebrate the motor, and the drivetrain. So look at this drivetrain a different way that you could celebrate it instead of covering up this ugly box. Porsche they do set the example of evolution, but we shouldn't forget that, in the late 70s when they came out with the 928, they thought the 911 was dead. They were committed to a better way to build a car with a front mid-engine V8 and a rear transaxle, and that was better geometry to make the car perform. And this old way with an engine hanging out the back was antiquated and they weren't going to do it anymore. And then, Heritage came and, all the dead people shook them and said, you got to keep this going. What do you mean you're going to take away our 911? So they had to keep it going. And then, I think I would actually say, and I love Porsche, so I'm not trying to be critical, but they were so shell-shocked by that reaction that they've now stuck to this very strict evolution where they cannot break that formula on the form of the car. And as technology and performance and kind of different geometries are proving that it's a difficult way to make a car perform well, they have to keep sort of cheating the way the underlying design to make it keep up with the competition while keeping that form. I mean, a 911 is only a couple inches off from being a mid-engine car now.
You can look at all these different aspects of heritage, whether it be the smell, the grille, so many different design aspects, like the line that Harley-Davidson has had, the Porsche 911, but those benchmarks of heritage are going to change dramatically. And ZF launched their See, Think, and Act campaign, which I think plays directly into the consumer's emotion. And when you look at the history of the Mustang, everyone can tell you what benchmark in their life they got a new Mustang. But now we can talk to the consumer inside the vehicle, like on an ongoing basis. And what type of emotion are you going to plug into? Having that data, being a part of a consumer's life to purchase products. Amazon Alexa has a camera and has all of these things in your home. Can you imagine what that will look like in your vehicle on an ongoing basis? Not only with like ebooks, but we're talking, eating. You look at the new Volkswagen ID, it's set up more like the original Airstream than it is an original Volkswagen van. So I think playing into that emotional part of being a part of someone's life is going to be the new definition of heritage.
I think, you all hit it on the head, especially for Harley-Davidson. Emotion is such a key piece of the puzzle.